Hi, I'm Valerie Fuller, and welcome to my mini tech video on Stephen Krashen's theory of language acquisitions. This theory has shaped how educators approach second language learn, learning, especially in classrooms with English learners. Today, I'll walk you through Krashen's key five hypotheses and how they apply in real classrooms and why they matter for effective instruction. And if you are working in a classroom or have a classroom setting, then these five keys will will be used in order for you to be successful in your classroom. I'm going to walk you through it and just kind of talk about it just a little bit. Just give some insight information on his hypothesis and how he feels like it's going to work in real classroom settings. Um, Everybody knows that, or you don't know that I'm an educator, so I too took the time out to list some things that I felt like that was important to where I can use in my own classroom settings. Um, I work with SPED kids, and then I also have Gen Ed kids as well. So hopefully the information that was given today will be useful not only today but in the future as I continue to teach my own classroom and have a personal and build a personal relationship with my students. Case's five hypothesis: acquisition learning. He distinguished between acquisitions, a subconscious process similar to how children learn their first language. A lot of children first language is English. A lot of children's first language is Spanish, depending on the ethnicity of the child. So, if you are teaching, and then some, I know that we use English also as a second language. So he's talking about how um, the student's first language is meaning that when they come into the world, the language that they are using when they're being born, which is conscious and formal. In classroom, acquisitions happen when students engage in meaningful communication, not just grammar drills. So that means that when students are talking and communicating, he says not just grammar drills, but actually having full blown communication, just communication with others. And I know that there's all types of form of communication. We have verbal communication, we have nonverbal communication, but at this particular topic, and I believe that he's talking about verbal communication, just having a sense of communication, sentence structure and being able to comprehend and understand. Excuse me, I have a cold. My sinuses is draining, so my eyes are kind of tearing. So I do apologize for some interruptions during this video. Um, and so he was just, and then he also said that monitor the hypnosis, the hypothesis. I'm sorry. The monitor is our internal editor. Cashin says learn language helps us monitor what we say, but it can slow us down. For an example, a student might hesitate before speaking to mentally check grammar. And that's just saying that it just talks about like us thinking before we speak or trying to process the words that we want to say. And sometimes that when a student want to say something, they have to grasp on what to say and how to say it. I know sometimes we feel like that, it's easy, but it doesn't come easy. I know sometimes that, so it's good to know that the student will grasp their words before they speak, because they want to make sure that they're not only speaking the correct using the correct words, but that we're able to understand what they're saying. It says, for an example, a student might hesitate before speaking to mentally check grammar. This is why fluency often requires letting go of perform or perfection. And we think that just trying to perfect the words that we say. Um, we thinking that talking is easy, but it's really not. Um, Sometimes it can come natural for others. Sometimes um, some of us stumble, as me. When I'm teaching, sometimes I stumble across my words. Just trying to, and when you're trying to perfect something in your mind, it's coming out as being perfect or being perfected, but it's like when you're actually speaking it, it doesn't come out that way. And so that's why he was saying that they think, and try to grasp before they speak. And I feel like as an adult, I do that too. Like I've always, tried to perfect what I'm gonna say, but then it's like when I say it, it doesn't come out like that. Language structures are acquired in a predictable order. For an example, learners often grasp present tense before mastering past tense. Teachers should be patient and avoid forcing grammar that students aren't developing mentally ready for. And that is so true because, like I said, as a teacher, I know that I have a lot of students, and I know I have some students that learn quicker than others. I know I have some students that could complete a sentence, and then I have some students that don't. But I try to be patient with my students because I'm like, everybody don't learn the same way. Everybody don't have the same learning ability. So it's like I had to learn how to be patient with my students, especially the ones that I knew had learning deficiencies, like, to let them know that, I've started to do like sound out the word, say the word, sound the word, spell the word, and then I would have them to repeat that process over and over again. And I know sometimes it gets frustrating for them because it's like they try to get it, they want to get it, but they're unable to grasp it. And I just tell them, breathe, or I try to do breathing techniques like, breathe in, breathe out, um, to kind of get them to get familiarized with the words that are being said. Um, and then I have a few slides here also um, in my presentation as well that I'm just going through to kind of outline some things that's going on too as well. Um, and then it says this is the heart of Krashen's theory. Learners need comprehensible input, language that is beyond their current level. Teachers can support this by using visual gestures and context clues. And I definitely agree with that because I made some visual aid cards. Um, and I used those for my students that I knew who had the learning deficits. And it's easy for them to recognize the picture, but sometimes it's hard for them to put the word on it. So, and when I give them the visual aid, I ask them to describe the picture as to like what they see. So, one of the cue cards that I made, it says quiet, and it has a little picture of a kid, and it's doing like the quiet mouth. And I was like, what does that say? And they was able to recognize it and do it, but they wasn't able to um say the word. So um when I do the visual aids and have them to sound it out, they was able to sound out the words. And I feel like using visual aid, it really helps because, it expands, their context, it expands their language barrier. And I use visual aids all the time. Even if I'm, talking to them and, they're, not paying attention and following directions, I will go ahead and go to my visual aid cards and I will show them something where there says, stop or sit down, and then they're able to do it. They're like, okay, well, I know we have to sit down or go get in line or stand up. So I feel like that the visual aid, it really helps them, not only to comprehend, what's being said, but then they're able to do it and read as well. Um, so I find that to be helpful as well. Using those visual aids. Think of a teacher pointing to a picture while saying, the dog is running. And that's just another demonstration that I just talked about. How that when I'm using the visual aid cards and pointing to something, and then I ask them to describe the picture or describe what they see, and they're able to tell me, they might not be able to tell me the word that is actually on the card, but they are able to tell me what's going on in the picture. I know I have one student. Um, she likes to hit um other kids. So I printed out a visual aid card that says nice hands. And so when she get ready to, touch other students, I use that card as well and it says nice hands, meaning that, keep your hands to yourself. So when she say nice hands, she know, okay, well, not to hit, other students or whatever. And so like I said, like I've just stated previously, like those visual aid cards, they really do work because it expands their vocabulary, to say that we can use other words without, using the same vocabulary. And it's not just for them as well. It's for me also to expand my vocabulary because I'm teaching a different generation. So the words that they using now is completely different. So it's like they're speaking a foreign language to me as well. So I try to keep up with them. And like I said, just using those visual aids is just to give them, a little insight to say, okay, we can use other words, without having to use the same words, even though it is going to mean the same thing. Um, so yeah. And so it says emotions matter. Anxiety, low motivation, or lack of confidence can block language acquisitions. Krashen calls this the effective filter. A welcoming, low stress classroom helps students observe language more effectively. And I feel like that is true too. And once again, because I work with SPED students, we talk about our emotions. So I have different emotions in my classroom. I have different books and, I do brain breaks with them, to ask them about their emotions. Um, and I ask them like how they're feeling today. A lot of times, I have colors for my emotions. So, red mean that they're angry. Um, yellow mean that they're okay and green mean that they're happy. So I would ask them, how they're feeling and if they feel like that they don't want to tell me and I'm like you don't have to or you don't know how to express yourself. I just be like, well, touch the color how you're feeling today or do you need a break? And I also have, a calm down corner to where they're not feeling up to part that day because I know that school can be overwhelming, even though we just got back to school. I know that school can be overwhelming. So, once they tell me that I'm feeling, red or yellow, or I'm feeling a five or above, I ask them, do they need a break or do they want to go to the calm down corner? And the calm down corner just for them to, you know, regather their thoughts and how they're feeling, and when they're are ready to talk, they can come to me, and then we can definitely talk about it. Just because like I said, they go through a lot of different emotions, and a lot of the things that they're going through is new. They're not able to fully understand and fully aware of what's going on with them. All they know that they're not feeling well, um, and they don't know why. So that's why I use those colors if they're not able to express themselves. A lot of them are able to say, I'm not feeling this way. I'm feeling a certain type of way, and they able to tell me. And then I'm like, I offer them some suggestions, do you need to go to the calm down? Or, do you, want to write it out? Or, you want to color? Or pick an activity just to kind of get them back in the mood of them to be in a safe haven, because like I said, I know that they go through a lot, and so I just try to be there for them the best way that I can as a teacher. Classroom applications. So how do we apply Cashier's theory in real classrooms? We talked about using visuals and gestures um, to support them, and then encourage peer interaction. I think that is so important to allow them to have that be with peers, and a lot of times they feel like that they can't talk to you, but they can talk to a close friend, and then the friend can relate the message to you, or they can speak to you, while their friend is around, or just have a group of peers, and ask them different questions to make them feel comfortable enough to talk. I feel like that's important too. I've always tried to engage with my students on a level to let them know that however they're feeling or whatever they're going through, it's okay to talk to me if they don't feel like that they can, but I try to encourage them the best way that I can. Create low anxiety environment with positive reinforcements. That's where the calm down corner comes from. It's just to say that, okay, go ahead and just calm, because calm down, and when you feel up to part, and when you feel like you're ready to talk, or even just ready to go back to class, then I make my classroom to have for them to be able to come in and calm down, um so that way that they know that if they need that break, they can always come you know to my classroom or whatever. And then it says scaffold instruction with sentence frame and modeling. Avoid overcorrecting. Focus on communication first. For an example, instead of drilling grammar, a teacher might say, tell me what you did this weekend, and accept imperfect answers as long as meaning is clear. And that's what we need to do, because I tell them, I'm not where this is not a perfect classroom. We gonna make mistakes all day long. I make mistakes all day long. And I just let them, and I just be honest with them, you know. Uh, and I talk about, how I was as a student. I was very shy, not outspoken. So I'm still learning as well as a teacher also. And then it says, while case and theory is widely respected, it's not without critics. Some argue it downplay the role of explicit grammar instructions. Others say it's hard to measure one or more, one or control the effective filter. Still, it remains a powerful framework for understanding how language is acquired. And that just the language barrier, just going through all the things that we just kind of spoke about in this video, um, as well as the visual aids that's being plate too. And I feel like that, I will definitely use these in, in my classroom setting. And it's just the conclusion of the video. I just felt like that, I like the breakdown of it. It gave me some insight information um, on what I need in order to not only have my students successful, but me to be a successful person inside and outside of the classroom. We never stop learning. We never stop growing. I just want to say thank you all for taking the time out to view this video. Once again, I do apologize. My allergies are not my best today, so my eyes are running, my nose is running. But I thank you all for your time. I thank you all for just allowing me to present this piece of information to you all. And I just want to say have a awesome day. Thank you.